Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow time travelers, welcome to a journey that spans thousands of years, hundreds of civilizations, and countless cups of coffee needed to stay awake through history classes. But don't worry, today we'll condense the entire history of human civilization into one captivating, humorous, and slightly dizzying adventure. Let's rewind to a time when human beings first decided that living in caves and grunting wasn't all that glamorous. Somewhere around 3000 BCE, we figured out how to farm, and bam.
Welcome to the rice fields, mother.
Civilization was born. In Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, the Sumerians were busy inventing writing, the wheel, and thankfully beer. Their cuneiform tablets were the ancient equivalent of Twitter, but with fewer cat memes. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the pharaohs decided that building pyramids was a good way to keep the populace busy and future archaeologists employed. Pharaohs like Ramses II and Tutankhamun were the original influencers minus the Instagram selfies, though they did leave behind some pretty impressive statues. Over in the Indus Valley, modern-day Pakistan and India, the Harappans were living in well-planned cities with indoor plumbing. Yes, while most of the world was still figuring out how to dig a decent hole, the Harappans were flushing away their problems like pros. Sadly, they left no Rosetta Stone to explain how they managed this urban miracle, and by 1900 BCE, their civilization mysteriously vanished. Aliens, perhaps? As we move forward to the first millennium BCE, the world got a little more crowded with civilizations eager to expand their borders, crush their enemies, and occasionally borrow each other's gods. In the Middle East, the Assyrians under the notorious king Ashurnasirpal II were the ancient world's equivalent of a biker gang, brutal, relentless, and with a penchant for leaving their enemies in creative displays of terror. Over in Israel, King David and his son Solomon were establishing the Kingdom of Israel, laying the groundwork for some of history's most famous stories. Goliath didn't stand a chance against the slingshot of legend. At the same time, the Zhou dynasty was kicking off in China, unifying the country under the mandate of heaven, which basically meant, I'm in charge because the sky says so. King Wu, the dynasty's founder, wasn't just good with a sword, he was good with word, convincing everyone that heaven itself endorsed his rule. Over in India, the Aryans were settling in and giving birth to Hinduism, a religion with so many gods that even the most devout worshiper needs a Rolodex. In Italy, the Etruscans were laying the foundation for Rome, the city that would eventually have more emperors named Julius than it knew what to do with. Now let's leap to the time of the Greeks. The Greeks. Masters of philosophy, drama, and awkward public nudity during the Olympics. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle weren't just guys with weird names, they were the OG thinkers, whose ideas still make college students weep today. While Athens was busy inventing democracy, which often looked more like a rowdy town hall meeting, Sparta was perfecting the art of scaring the pants off everyone with its fearsome warriors. But it wasn't all toga parties and philosophical debates, no. The Greeks had to defend their homeland against the mighty Persian Empire, led by the likes of King Xerxes, who was famously defeated by a small group of Greeks and a large amount of dramatic license in the movie 300. Meanwhile, the Romans were watching and taking notes. By 509 BCE, Rome had transitioned from a kingdom to a republic, which, despite its noble ideals, involved a lot more stabbing than Cicero would have liked. Julius Caesar, Rome's most famous general, decided that being a dictator sounded more fun than being a senator. But after conquering Gaul, he found himself on the wrong end of a bunch of knives on the Ides of March. His death marked the end of the Republic and the start of the Roman Empire, with Augustus taking the first emperor's crown. While Rome was busy building roads and losing emperors, China was undergoing its own dramatic transformations. The Qin dynasty, under Qin Shi Huang, unified China and decided that what the country really needed was a massive wall to keep out the neighbors, and so the Great Wall was born. Qin Shi Huang also standardized Chinese writing, which, given the complexity of Chinese characters, is the linguistic equivalent of organizing a library by smell. The Qin dynasty was short-lived, but it was succeeded by the Han dynasty, which turned China into a global power thanks to the Silk Road. This trade network didn't just move silk, it moved ideas, technologies, and diseases faster than you can say Marco Polo. In India, the Maurya Empire was thriving under Emperor Ashoka, who went from ruthless conqueror to Buddhist monk faster than a Netflix plot twist. Ashoka's reign was a golden age of peace, which was great for everyone, except the swordsmiths. As we cross into the first millennium CE, the world entered a period often misnamed the Dark Ages, though it was only dark if you were stuck in a European mud hut. Elsewhere, civilizations were flourishing. In the Middle East, the Byzantine Empire or Eastern Roman Empire was carrying on the Roman legacy with a lot more gold leaf and slightly less Latin. Emperor Justinian I built the Hagia Sophia, a church so grand it could make an atheist consider conversion. Meanwhile, the Islamic Golden Age was transforming the Middle East into a hub of science, philosophy, and most importantly, coffee. In Africa, the Kingdom of Aksum in modern-day Ethiopia was trading gold, ivory, and ideas with the rest of the known world. They were also one of the first African civilizations to adopt Christianity, though they wisely avoided the theological debates that plagued Europe. In the Americas, the Maya civilization was building cities that put most European capitals to shame. They also invented a calendar that predicted the end of the world in 2012, or so we thought. The real mystery is how they managed to track the stars so accurately without ever inventing the telescope. Meanwhile, in the cold north, the Vikings were proving that you don't need to be civilized to make history. Their raids on Europe kept monks in a perpetual state of panic, though. In their off hours, the Vikings were skilled traders and explorers. They even discovered America, though they didn't stay long enough to open a Starbucks. By the 14th century, Europe finally shook off the medieval blues and decided to get creative. The Renaissance was born, and with it came a flood of art, science, and the occasional scandalous statue. Leonardo da Vinci was painting masterpieces, Michelangelo was sculpting muscles on marble that no real human could ever have, and Galileo was making sure the church never forgot his name. Meanwhile, across the globe, explorers were setting sail for parts unknown. Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, though the locals had been living there for thousands of years and probably found his ignorance adorable. Vasco da Gama sailed around Africa to India, proving that you could indeed get curry without crossing the Himalayas. In the Americas, the Aztec and Inca empires were at their peak, building cities that rivaled anything in Europe. The Aztecs, under leaders like Montezuma, were particularly good at multitasking, managing an empire, while also playing an incredibly violent version of basketball. The Incas, led by Pachacuti, built Machu Picchu, which still confounds archaeologists and tourists alike with its stunning architecture and lack of adequate signage. As we race toward the present day, the pace of change accelerates. The 18th and 19th centuries were marked by revolutions, both political and industrial. The American Revolution kicked things off in 1776, with George Washington leading the charge and proving that wooden teeth and leadership skills are not mutually exclusive. The French Revolution followed with Robespierre, Napoleon, and a lot of guillotines, ensuring that history teachers never run out of material. Meanwhile, the Industrial Revolution was turning cities into smoke-filled, overcrowded, and wonderfully productive centers of commerce. The 20th century brought two world wars, the rise and fall of empires, and the Cold War, a period of intense rivalry between the US and the USSR that somehow never resulted in the complete annihilation of the planet. But the century ended on a high note, with humanity landing on the moon in 1969. Neil Armstrong's famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," perfectly captured the spirit of exploration that had driven humanity for millennia. And so, here we are, standing on the brink of the future, with a past that stretches back thousands of years. We've gone from hunting mammoths to landing on the moon, from building pyramids to splitting the atom. The story of human civilization is one of triumph and tragedy, innovation and stupidity, and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. As we look forward to what the future might bring, be it colonizing Mars, curing cancer, or finally inventing a decent gluten-free pizza, let's remember the lessons of the past. History is not just a series of dates and events, it's the story of us, our struggles, our achievements, and our enduring hope that tomorrow will be better than today. Thank you, and may your future be as bright as our collective history is long.